Let's talk about finding the right sensitivity in Counter-Strike 2. I'm going to give you guys advice and tips that I have learned through my years of competing in the professional CSGO circuit and giving you little bits of advice and adjustments that we can make as we're moving into Counter-Strike 2 so that you can feel comfortable, you can feel your best, and you can perform at the top level when we are playing Counter-Strike 2. So let's get right into the video, guys. The first thing I want you to do is understand what the in-game sensitivity is, right? So when we go to our settings here, we're going to go over to keyboard and mouse, and you're going to see that there is mouse sensitivity right here, right? And essentially this is going to be your in-game sensitivity that you can adjust, put in any values here from all the way up to 8 all the way down to 0.1, right? So this means very little, to be honest, because what is more important is, understanding what your total EDPI is. And you might be saying, Kojo, what is your total EDPI, right? What do you mean? I just choose a setting inside of the, the menu and I just play with it. So it is very important to understand what your total EDPI is. And the formula for this is your DPI, which is the sensitivity on your mouse, right? How fast your mouse is moving, even outside of Counter-Strike. So your DPI, which is your mouse sensitivity, times your in-game sensitivity, which I just showed you on the menu in there, right? You multiply these together, that's going to give you your EDPI, and then we can start to talk about what is right for you and what you should be using, right? So that's the formula you need to understand going forward into this video so that you can have an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm giving you perfect sensitivities and bad sensitivities. So just keep in mind that, it doesn't really matter what your DPI is or your in-game is. It matters your total, right? So let's talk about common DPIs for your mouse, right? Because a lot of you may not even know what you have. 400, 800, and 1600 are going to be your most common DPIs, and I want to say probably 99% of professional players play on one of these DPIs. If you don't know what yours is, it's very important to find that out. So like I said, most mice, they come just standard 800 if you haven't adjusted anything, but it doesn't hurt. All you have to do is look it up on Google, look up your specific mouse and what DPI ranges they have and what it comes default, and you'll get a good idea of that, right? So that's one of the most important things. And once we understand this formula, we can start to adjust it to make sure that we are comfortable, right? So most new players, the problem that they have is they play on a sensitivity that is just way too high, right? They play on sense that is just unreal. It's literally just, I can't believe some players, how high it is. And you might do this because you're coming from other games where you need to constantly be spinning around doing 360s, Fortnite, Call of Duty, even Overwatch, stuff like this where you're constantly being attacked from all sides. But in Counter-Strike, that's not as important, right? You're mostly gonna be holding angles, and there's barely any time where you're going to be doing 360s like a Beyblade, spinning around and around and around. So it's not very important. So for me, the range that I would suggest and the range that most professional players play on is around 600 EDPI all the way up to 1200 EDPI. I think this is the sweet spot. If you find a sensitivity within this range, you are going to be chilling. And it also depends on the role that you're playing, right? So for me, if you're opping, which is the sniper inside of Counter-Strike 2, if you're the opper or you use the op a lot, it can be very beneficial to increase your sensitivity, your EDPI, because you're going to have to be flicking with the op. It's very good to have a higher sense as an opper because you have a higher range of motion, and when you're scoped up, it's harder to actually move your scope around. So having a higher EDPI is going to be important to you finding success. And you can play on a low sensitivity as an operator. I'm not saying you can't, but it's just not going to be as beneficial for you if you are. So if you're a rifler, on the other hand, you can actually benefit very much from playing on a lower sensitivity. You can benefit a lot. So honestly, if you're a rifler, I wouldn't even, I can understand having a EDPI as low as 400. That's low, but like I can see why that could be a good thing because you want to hit those one taps, right? And let's talk about the differences between low sensitivity and high sensitivity. So the reason I think low sensitivity is way better than having a higher sensitivity is because you can be so much more consistent, right? At the end of the day, if you have a lower sensitivity, it gets rid of some of the randomness that happens when, you're flicking around and doing crazy stuff. When you're lower sensitivity, inherently you're going to be able to master those movements a lot faster, in my opinion, than when you have a higher sensitivity and you have to constantly make these tiny little micro adjustments. Which I'm not saying you can't be good. I'm not saying you can't be good. You can be insane on high sensitivity, especially when you got that caffeine pumping through your veins and you're on your 8th Mountain Dew and 2nd Red Bull of the night. Of course you're gonna be nuts, right? But in general, if you want a lasting, long-term good sensitivity, playing on a lower EDPI is going to be very beneficial for you, especially if you're rifling. And, you know, at the end of the day, guys, what I like to do when I was going up through the scene is I actually went over to a website called prosettings.net, and you can see all of the professional players' sensitivities, all their, you know, EDPI, what mouse they use. And I actually just started copying like Opper's stuff, and you know, you should choose your own settings and play on them for a long time. But if you're ever curious what the pros are playing on, just go ahead and look at that website and see the ranges that they're on, right? For me, I play on 400 DPI 2.0, and I've never switched off of that. And if I have switched off of it, it's just like I do it for a day, and I'm so mad at myself because, like, why am I switching, right? I'm so used to this sensitivity and mouse speed that it's just stupid that you ever keep switching back and forth. So whatever you do choose, get consistent on it, because at the end of the day, what is your sensitivity doing? It's controlling how fast your crosshair is moving around, you know, the map, right? So once you keep building this muscle memory for a sensitivity, you're going to absolutely destroy yourself if you keep switching off of it and doing something different. You might be insane on you know, 2000 EDPI, right? And Kojo's here telling you don't play on that, right? But maybe you're insane on it, so maybe you should keep that. I'm just telling you what works for the general range of players and what seems to be the winning formula for success for professional players, right? So also, guys, there's another setting in here, which is zoom sensitivity multiplier for you oppers and scouters, I guess, whatever. I personally would just leave this on 1. Trust me, it's just gonna mess with you a bit if you change this and you get in your head about this. Again, you totally can play on this with a different value. You totally can. But in my opinion, just keep it at 1 if you haven't messed with it already. And if you're struggling, just turn it back to default settings, right? You don't need to have a different zoom sensitivity. It's not important at all. And also make sure reverse mouse mode is off unless you're just built different like that. But, you know, it's just like it's so important to be able to understand your sensitivity, because at the end of the day, this is going to be what makes or breaks your aim, right? You need to be able to find what works best for you. Are you more, you know, do you have limited desk space? If you have limited desk space, of course you need to use a higher sensitivity because you don't have enough room to move your mouse around, right? So if you have the luxury of having good desk space, then you should play on a lower sensitivity or one that is more, in quotes, normal, because, you know, it's like I said, it's going to be easier to build that muscle memory and be more on point with your aim when you're using it, right? When you have higher sensitivity, you're going to shake a lot more. You're going to be inconsistent. You're going to hit some insane shots, but then also whiff the easiest kills of your life because of that. And just keep in mind, guys, every sensitivity has different benefits, right? A higher sensitivity, you can hit those nasty flicks, but it's hard at long range to get those spray downs, right? When you're on a lower sensitivity, there's less variance, there's less, you know, randomness that's going on because you're not moving your mouse a millimeter and it's flicking across your screen. So just find what is the sweet spot for you. Like I said, 800 DPI tends to be the middle for professional players, and it tends to be what most players play on no matter what role they're at. So you know, at the end of the day, also your DPI just doesn't really matter that much. For me, I play on 400 DPI just because it's what I've always played on. I like it. That's what I prefer. Some players play on 800. That's the most common by far, is 800 DPI, and then you choose whatever sensitivity. So 800 DPI in 1.0 in-game sense is the same as 400 DPI 2.0 in-game. So just find this calculation, find the formula. If you guys need any help, I'll be here to give you advice, give you tips, ask any questions you want about sensitivity, aiming, anything about Counter-Strike 2. I will answer it below. Give me any video ideas as well. I may do your video idea, and that'll be pretty sick. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. You have a great rest of your day. Hit that subscribe button and let's keep grinding. Let's keep doing our best in Counter-Strike 2 and trying to make it to the top. So I will be here for you guys every single day. You don't have to worry about that. See you guys later. Peace out.